I wanna see what he has to say about his own face.
So, onwards! Onwards!
Ciao, maskless one.
Wow, you really have nothing to say about your own face. Let's just make sure.
See you around.
Okay, I don't know. Anyway, none of that is why I'm even recording, really. What I want to do is read the compendium. This is just tutorial stuff. Okay. And so the tale begins with the picturesque town of Quinta. Delve deeper within it and seek answers at the castle atop the hill. Zani must fall for the future to come. Whatever the Academy of Theater once was, its wicked husk cannot remain any longer. Zani has fallen. How sad his tale was in the end, forever longing for approval. Well, the path forward is now clear. You must enter the theater that resides below Zani's fateful arena. Our first target should be Felicia Mania, through the gates of the Sunflower Field. Welcome to the sun-bleached shores of Mania, a once popular destination for travelers seeking an escape. It is now a war-torn state with two factions locked in eternal strife. Spaventa's tower looms over you, a twisted monument of falsehood. Climb it and bring down the meridian sun. The great city of Latumnia, the focal point of the pursuit of knowledge at all costs. Now it stands haunted by its twisted patrons as the eternal storm rages on. Pantalone of endless greed, Balanzone of ravenous pursuit for knowledge. Two men remain at the helm of the fallen city, endlessly squabbling over scraps. Reach the astrarium and submit their resignation. The end is nigh. Strale Volata, the shattered remains of the once great Elsa, ripple out before you. Mecenate, god of wealth. You found Mecenate's medallion and freed the god, as well as his unlikely compatriot, the merchant. Two minds, a single twisted body. The goal is clear: lift the curse and free them from their prison of flesh. With each step the curse weakens, the merchant's resolve seems bolstered. You must press on, the end is in sight. The curse is gone, yet so is the merchant. It was foolish of him to believe a god would concern himself with anything but his own well-being. There is a price to pay for trusting blindly, as shown by the god of wealth. She will observe your path of change in the theater. The goddess of life gave birth to undeath. Maya's damnable choice to break the cycle led to unspeakable consequences. Yet there is a glimmer of hope. Maya was the one to love all beings, yet she could never love herself. You are helping her find acceptance. Maya's rot is finally dwindling and her purity restored. No, bettered. Her power is returning, yet how she wields it is entirely different. Through your adventures, she has found humility and forgiveness for the one who needed it most, herself. Though she put up a mighty fight, history speaks of a time when entire empires rose and fell with the swing of her wrathful blade. Not even kin were safe. A goddess of war who once ruled the entire land, she was revered by the most powerful empire this world has ever seen. She raised the very cliffs of Felicia away from the water after a bitter feud with her brother, the god of the seas. Many legends speak of her, faded on the rocky murals of this land. One thing is for certain: the Veltha you met has lost trust even in those closest to her, becoming isolated and weakened. You alone can show her that there is strength in numbers. Thrust, a powerful offensive maneuver that can make even a sharpened stick a potent tool of war. Trust, the bedrock upon which stability is built, and something that is all too lacking in Veltha. Yet with time, you see the Spartan demeanor soften and her true character show. Perhaps there is hope yet. With time, you saw the Master of War show she is a beginner in most else. Yet, with humility and patience, she began to learn, to absorb knowledge from others, heed their words, and most importantly, trust them. Gone is the Spartan stubbornness. In its stead blossomed a warmth, joy, and excitement that took even other gods by surprise. Veltha, the goddess of war, has finally broadened her horizons thanks in no small part to you. Leto, the most mysterious of all the gods you've found, few know of its existence and none of its nature. Even other defined beings seem to distrust the nebulous cosmic entity and treat it with caution. We know not what it wants or from whence it came. All we know is that it holds immeasurable power and is more ancient than any mortal mind can fathom, and that it is on our side for now. Perhaps that is enough. As your tale with Leto comes to a close, uncertainty floods you. You know more than you ever had, yet less than you thought possible. It seems unlike with other gods. This tale ended when it no longer needed you, despite not knowing what it is even aiming for. A thought stirs within your mind. You have gained something. Not trust, but curiosity. You best watch your step, for the very stars observe you now. A mysterious note was found in Quinta that details the ambitious plan of 3 conspirators and close friends. It speaks of a secret power that could change the very world, and the ambitious plans they have of it. Why it elicited such a reaction from Pulcinella is unknown, and so ends the tale of the magician. Pulcinella's reaction raises many doubts. Who is he exactly, and what happened to him? And how is it connected to the events found in the notes? Only time will tell. The Duke's Garden, as the cloister was often dubbed by those of fervent faith. Strong belief exists that everything was built with a sole purpose, to gain the favor of Elsa's church. Why the Duke would go so far, and what other reasons he might have, few will ever know. It appears the pursuit of autonomous machinery resulted in countless acts of unspeakable horror. So great was the vision shared by Pantalone and Balansoni that they'd stop at nothing, abduction, experiments, or seeking intellect to reuse from any and all sources. At first, fewer rats scurried in alleyways and canals, and people rejoiced. Then birds grew silent, and disquieting silence took their place. When children stopped returning to their homes, it was already too late. For he who creates the first mind of steel will rule the world. Dear Duke, as per your request, the order has been fulfilled, the ailment cleansed and function restored. We thank you for your trust in the future, as well as your generous donations. Where shamans and healers failed, the innovators of Latumnia shall reign supreme. Expect Baldovino within a fortnight in full operating capacity. Latumnian Guild. Pulcinella would have something to say about these events, and so ended the tale of the Emperor. What wicked events have transpired? A garden of false promise, a crypt of true darkness, a duke broken by his son's fate. The world is a web, and it is all too easy to get tangled. Yeah. So keep that in mind, the children and the Mind of Steel thing. Wheel of Fortune. Seldom can pure military might overcome lack of leadership. This was the case with Spaventa and his invasion of Falesia. Though ill-equipped and outmatched, the Falesians had the greatest advantage of them all, the true cause for resistance. Locked in a perpetual stalemate, Spaventa grew increasingly desperate, and went as far as to try and turn the very creatures of Falesia into weapons of war. Such experiments met mixed success and were almost universally condemned by the soldiers. One man sought a different, better way. One would do well to seek out the fruits of his labor, wherever on the sandy shores they might be. Pulcinella would have something to say about these events. And so ends the Wheel of Fortune, a critter cute caught in carnage. Crabert's purity is a welcome reprieve from the somber state of the world. Pulcinella might have taken these events lightly, but his words still ring true. Bit by bit, you are freeing this world from stagnation. The world. The point of no return has been crossed. All those you have aided come together to escort you to the final fight. Meet them, greet them, and listen carefully to what they say, for they might grant insight into the fight to come. And so ends the tale of the world. Arlecchino has fallen. A new dawn rises on Enotria. Whose light shall pierce the clouds? Only time will tell. A medallion, a man, a god. 3 secrets in a single piece you found within a chamber in the theater. Return in time to see what form the liberated spirits will take. And so ends the tale of the fool. The medallion is freed, the blacksmith takes form. What a peculiar fate. Find Spaventa, the holder of a cursed item that can serve as a catalyst for Mecinate's freedom, and that of the merchant. Their meridian sun must set. Mecenate would have something to say about these events, and so ends the tale of the chariot. Mecenate seems introspective about the events that led him to his cursed state, though not as much as the merchant. Let's hope this trinket will be of more use to them than the rest of Spaventa's treasure. Seek out Pantalone and Balanzone at the heart of Latumnia, and slay the vile authors who cast the curse upon Mecenate and his affable merchant. Mecenate would have something to say about these events. And so ends the tale of justice. Pantalone and Balanzone have met their deserved fate. Now let's see if it is enough to rescue the much more likable duo that enlisted your help. You find Maya's sanctuary deep beneath Quinta. Driven mad by her fall and the damnable choices that led her there, she lashed out. Yet, in you she found compassion and a second chance. And so ends the tale of the Empress. Maya resides in the theater, though you have a feeling her prison was never made of walls. Her mind seems fragile. Perhaps showing her the world will make her fall in love with it once again. One can only hope. You found a Mantalone deep within a necropolis in Falesia. What cruel irony to be trapped with the undead creatures spawned by the very goddess you revered. The man begged and pleaded for you to seek his lover, Medea. They were separated by space, religion, and society. A Mantalone from Quinta, a huntress of Falesia. When the world fell, they both sought each other, their hearts knowing no patience. They found themselves in their lover's domain, but it lay empty. Seek her in Quinta, bring her back to him, she is everything. You have found the huntress Medea dead in Quinta. On her you found the final letter written to her lover, forever unsent. Know this, dearest mine, that some things are not measured, but felt. Do not mistake vulnerability for weakness. The sanctimonious erect grand palaces of stone, fuel machinery with fire, speak of strength and resilience, deem flowers vain, frail, and seasonal, bereft of true value. Yet answer this, would you rather live in a world of dirt, rocks, and fire, or one of rolling meadows and flowery fields? Yours eternally, Medea. A cruel fate that should be made known to the poor Mantalone should you find him. Maya would have something to say about these events. And so ends the tale of the lovers. Maya was touched by it. She revealed her fears, her doubts, her fall. Yet, amidst the despair you saw a hopeful flicker, determination. There is fight in her yet. Yeah, it's sad that they missed each other. You faced the mighty Vermiglio deep within the garden, a prior of blood and sanctimony. His cruelty matched only by his fervor in pursuing Maya, all the while twisting the values of the church. Worship turned to maddened obsession. He would spend every waking hour pleading with her, yet not once did she answer. Many wondered if the goddess ever heard him, or more likely, she didn't want to. And so ends the tale of the hanged man. Maya was reluctant to say anything about the events that transpired, despite Vermiglio being an ardent worshipper of hers. It would appear the god he worshipped was not the one he believed it to be. How readily men of faith twist belief to suit their purpose. Alone Milite sits beside a grotesque tree. Through him you learn of his fallen brothers, nothing more than fertilizer now, forever fused with the towering trunk. In its shade, humility ponders the meaning of it all as foes rise and fall in perpetuity and comrades fade evermore. One cannot help but wonder how many of Falesia's magnificent trees survived in the arid climate, thanks to countless battles and coups, feeding the parched soil with blood. Maya would have something to say. And so ends the tale of death. Maya seemed to see the fate of the soldiers and his comrades as the manifestation of nature. She revealed that she is not the first goddess of her kind, perhaps not the last. How easily mortality strips us of pretense, indeed. Through a spirit of the forest, you have found a treasure hidden within a sunken monastery in Quinta. Who knew the seed of hope was so close to Maya all along? And so ends the tale of the star. Maya seems to be reinvigorated by the seed you found. With luck, hope will sprout. She looks more and more like the goddess she once was with each passing day. In Felicia's wide expanse, you met a sanctum guardian, a noble warrior who once served Jangirgalo. Through him, you learned of the far-reaching respect and admiration that the great general had built, honor, valor, and dignity. Yet, when he chose to save Felicia from the usurpers, he made a bargain with the devil. Whether it was God or other that granted Jangirgalo the power he felt needed, it came at too high a toll. Sometimes one shouldn't look for their heroes, lest they find them. The Guardian had failed. The Aenean bloodline ended in an ignoble manner beneath an endless sun. Yet, it is what Jangirgalo would have wanted, a warrior's death, and someone to don the visage of the Aenean and carry on the mantle of resistance. And so ends the tale of the Hierophant. Velta seems touched by the fall of Jangirgalo and the effect it had on his loyal custody. Even the purest of intent can turn foul should it be taken too far. It seems she understands this now. Her past is littered with those she made submit. Even then, her reaction to Jangirgalo seems to have hit deeper than one might expect. Perhaps they had a history between them, once upon a time. You faced Velta in the grand chamber of the Thermae, goddess of war long since fallen from grace. When you bested her in combat, you reminded her of what once was, and so the lost warrior will join you in the theater and accompany you on your journey. And so ends the tale of strength. Velta respects you, but she doesn't trust you yet. A mutual feeling. You must lead her on the path of introspection. You found a band of Spaventan soldiers in a hidden passage in Latumnia's guild. Beaten and battered, not but one remained. Using his commander's visage, you gained access to their armory and learned of their secret mission to seek aid from Latumnia. It seemed Spaventa and the rulers of Latumnia made for uneasy allies at the best of times, and even in his final hours, Spaventa could never speak plainly, not even with his own men. He would rather die than ever be exposed for his doubt. And so ends the tale of the sun. Velta looked down on Spaventa in all ways. Most were justified, some were not. It seems she is finally opening her heart to that reality. Vulnerability can be a strength when one steps away from the battlefield. You have roamed the lands, healed the wounded, helped the damned, and alongside it all, you guided the very gods themselves on a path of betterment. To accept their weakness, their humanity. And as such, you have been offered a choice no other has ever had. To join the gods themselves, to break the cycle of strife between gods and men. To put both on equal footing as a new god, the god of men. Weigh your options carefully, maskless one. You've made your choice. Now all that remains is to see what end it will lead when Arlecchino falls. Not all who wander are lost. When an adventurer sees himself as a solution, it is all too easy to see problems everywhere. The Serena citizen has reminded you that there is value in simply existing. Not everything must be a grand quest or foe to slay. Sometimes it's all right to just be. May this serve as a valuable, albeit humbling lesson to you, maskless one, and all that guides you. Inhale, exhale, exist. And so ends the tale of Temperance. Velta has never hesitated. This served her well on the battlefield, yet once the dust had settled, she could never stop. Her body and mind are always on the alert, always moving. Perhaps there will come a time when one could stay still and take in the world around them. One cannot help but be amused at the thought of Velta attempting Serena's challenge, though this is a thought that's best kept to yourself. Well, I can kind of imagine it, because she kind of just stands there in one spot. A note led you to the mines beneath Latumnia, where the city's darkest secrets reside. Through an audience with a priestess of the order, you found that there is a brutal price for Gratia's holy healing. 1,000 things it made possible, 1,000 horrors it afflicted. It is clear men need not fear divine wrath. They are more than capable of inflicting it upon themselves. Perhaps it was Leto's intent to show you the path of unbridled ambition, and what awaits at the end. And so ends the tale of the High Priestess. Leto seems to have guided you to it, unbeknownst to you. Through him, you see the futility of worship, how lost one can become when they mistake an aberrant light for a lighthouse. The ocean of reality hides countless jagged rocks beneath its stormy waves. A cold, damp, and dark crypt lies beneath the Mantaloni garden, one built by none other than the Duke of Quinta himself, and within it resided a twisted creature, a jailer who painted the walls in crimson and filled the darkness with screams. Yet, only the Duke had accepted him. Only he had shielded him from the cruelty of the surface. The jailer's many ailments and twisted visage made his every waking moment a torment on the sunny surface of Quinta. In the shadows, he had to live, forever persecuted, until this crypt was given to him, his own little kingdom that he never left again, nor did he want to. Darkness is far more accepting than light. There is no judgment in the shadows and dim candlelight, and so he did as he was told. Shamans, healers, dissidents, nobles. Anyone and everyone the Duke sent his way, he deconstructed and extracted usefulness from them. As their persecution once condemned him, so did he inflict retribution upon them. Yet, in his final moments, the seedling of doubt sprouted in his mind. To what end had his efforts served? Did the Duke do it for his lands, for power, or for some foolish pursuit such as eternal life? The jailer would never know. While his soul was whisked to the pits of damnation, all he could do was repeat to himself that he only did what he was asked. And so ends the tale of the hermit. Leto seems to believe that not all paths lead somewhere, especially within the winding expanse of one's mind. Darkness can grant one true clarity if they resist the whispers of the shadows hiding within it. Yet another cruel mirror hung before you, reflecting the wicked nature of mankind. Leto shows no mercy. This tale speaks of Laudamia and Moretta, two women torn apart by a society ruled by heartless men, forced into marriages to fill a noble's purse with no regard for vacant hearts. Yet, the reactions could not be more different. Laudamia lamented her fate, wilting like a flower deprived of her sun. Moretta donned a cloak, struck a bargain with an unknown entity, and became the most feared assassin Latumnia had ever known. One by one, all who had wronged her fell beneath the thirsty blade of her vendetta, and somewhere along the way her former self was lost. Moretta lies still now, an inevitable conclusion. Yet, Laudamia has chosen to see the stillness as peace and fuel. Fuel for the change she dreams of in the world. A new order that is more accepting, that treats people with the same reverence as knowledge when it comes to progress. Not with blade or furnace, but through word and quill. History will determine what would come from this bravest of heroes' fight. And so ends the tale of the devil. Leto seems to believe that violence is another form of expression adopted by those who deem themselves real. What cruel fate, what abject nihilism. At times, it makes your skin crawl and your mind buckle. What is the meaning of all this violence? You are meant to grant the gods insight, yet each step with Leto feels like you are sinking deeper into the unknown. No, you must stay your course. Spaventa's tower looms high above Feliasia's Urba. Through scattered notes and pilfered remains, you have found the true extent of his vanity. A tower with no purpose other than to impress. A monument as hollow as his promises. Temples, caves, and monuments sacked and pilfered, all in the name of this amalgamation of vanity. How cruel to force these men to disassemble their own history and legacy, only to build this abomination of wood and stone. Leto yet again reveals the crippling lack of reverence for the past and wanton disregard of the future that the short life cycle of men entails. Can there be another way? And so ends the tale of the tower. Leto seems to look down on the history of man, How trivial it all seems now. A mysterious creature known as the Bargnef urges you to best his challenges. Seek him in the canals and alleyways of Latumnia and solve his riddles. You may yet peer beyond the veil of secrets. Solve each riddle and the path shall be revealed. You are getting closer, ever closer. Follow the mysterious passage and seek audience with the cosmos itself. And so ends the tale of the moon. Leto has joined it. Or have you joined it? Your mind feels as if it has shattered, like a mirror thrust upon uncaring cobblestones. As you hold each piece, it cuts into your flesh, twisting your reflections further. It seems the Bargnev was the straightforward one. As the land fades, my sins are laid bare, and so I shall sing this song, hoping it brings change to the world forlorn. Known as Vedetta in ancient times, the city of Quinta thrived as a commercial outpost due to its unique central position in the map of Enotria. It is said that the high peak on which the city stands was originally the nest site of an immense creature with avian features that acted as the ancestral lord of the whole territory. The winged monarch made early attempts to establish trade very difficult. It regularly attacked each and every trade caravan that was forced across the area. Legends tell the tale of a knight who felled the mighty fiend in a struggle for the ages. Eternally grateful, the Duke of Elsa made him the first lord of the whole region. Testament to the knight's deeds are engraved in the blessed great sword, which was given to him by the Church of Maya. Time would prove that the first lord was not as gifted in governance as he was a knight. His excessive military zeal made him increasingly unpopular among the population. Eventually, the citizens took up arms and ousted him. In the aftermath, the population founded a council that was supported by the rich merchant families of Elsa. The city of Quinto slowly, but surely, became a haven for people who wanted to live peacefully and pursue the arts. The College of Theater was founded by none other than Zani, first among actors, and some would say as much of a historical figure as the ancient lord of Vedetta. After the curse of stagnation was unleashed across the lands of Enotria, the city found itself trapped in an eternal loop, which happened to affect the famous festival created by Zani. A constant stream of commoners and actors continued their pilgrimage to the city from the surrounding regions, only to meet their tragic demise in the maws of the first actor. The monks devoted to the goddess initially managed to oppose the stagnation, but the population soon became violent towards the order. Desperate, they sealed themselves in the monastery, and there they remained until pain and madness took over the prior of the head of the order. The monks were led to commit by the order of the Red Prior. As he stood alone, he attempted to follow his disciples, piercing his chest with the stiletto blessed by the goddess. But death would not come. The deity would not allow it, as if she still needed them. Stuck tragically in the interstice of life and death, the cult would never find respite again. Only the Red Prior reveled in this predicament, enthused to be able to serve her goddess, unshackled by the notions of life and death. Interesting. In the beginning, there were two sibling gods, Velta, creator of the emerging lands, and Nathans, originator of the seas. As Velta observed the multitude of life forms that populate her brother's kingdom, envy took over. She was determined to shape offspring that would surpass them. She then sculpted people in her image and bestowed the gift of premonition upon them. They would herald the rise of the grandiose Aenian Empire. Guided by the deity, citizens of the newly founded empire excelled in both culture and military power, but little did they know that all this prosperity would come at a price. The greater Velta's civilization grew, the more the impact it had on Nathan's kingdom. The two gods were bound to come to conflict. Okay, so this is the point in the lore where they switched the gender of Velta, and I think the reason for that is because from this point forward, we're seeing Velta from the perspective of the cult of Velta, which was reestablished based on, as we heard before, legends carved on rocks from thousands of years earlier. Given they didn't know very much, they repurposed Velta for their own purposes, and the reason that nobody knew anything about Velta anymore was because nobody could talk to Velta anymore because of what Nethins did. Nethins made it so that Veltha's people could not in any way communicate with her. And so centuries passed, and everybody forgot about her eventually. She became nothing but legend on stone, as we read earlier. And they did the best they could. You know, it's understandable that they didn't get everything right. It's a little bit interesting, though, because a statue of Veltha that's like her perfect likeness is in the room where the simulacra of Veltha is. So I'm a little bit confused as to how they made that mistake. But it is what it is. Let's keep going, though. Veltha demanded the ocean creatures so dear to his brother to be bound to support humanity's growth. This intention was further fostered by humans themselves, due to their discordant relationship with the ocean. Life at sea has always been dangerous for merchants and fishermen. Countless wives became widows, waiting for their loved ones to return. The ocean could never be seen in a good light, despite it being the main source of the livelihoods of all Veltha's children. As centuries passed, Nethins grew to despise Veltha and humanity as a whole. In secret, the sea god cast a curse that would strike whomever fed on the creatures of his kingdom, ultimately rendering humanity unable to communicate with their god. Eventually, people started to feel like Veltha had abandoned them, and they slowly but surely started to lose faith in him. It was then that Nethin struck, unleashing storms and tidal waves that decimated the population. On the brink of destruction, humanity decided to abandon their homeland, triggering a chain of events that, over the course of many years, resulted in the decline and demise of the ancient Aenian Empire. Veltha entered a fierce fight with the oceans themselves upon discovering his brother's betrayal. As the siblings clashed, not even the mainland was spared from collateral damage. As the battle reached its peak, Veltha managed to split the ocean in two with an immensely powerful slash. Not even Nethins was spared from the cataclysmic attack. He was stuck beneath Veltha's blade at the bottom of the sea in an endless abyss. Emerging victorious, Veltha razed the land along the shores to distance his domain from that of his brother. These high cliffs are the reason why the territory of the Old Empire was renamed Phlesia Mania. Weakened, wounded, and distrustful, Veltha eventually abandoned the people of Phlesia and sought refuge somewhere beneath the ancient capital. It will take eons to recover from the fight. Now feeding on fear rather than worship, Veltha waits to find out if Phlesia will ever prove itself worthy of his protection again. The descendants of the Empire eventually grew weary of venturing into its lands, believing that it was cursed. This paved the way for foreigners and their raiding parties, which, slowly but surely, began to disturb an already brittle state of peace. It soon became clear to the inhabitants of the former empire that they needed to unite to counter the brewing unrest. The only thing that kept them together were religious beliefs, which naturally granted more power to the priestly class. But not even the clergy was free from corruption. Some priestesses willingly took advantage of the people that felt abandoned by Veltha and decided to seize control in an attempt to reunite the tribes. Okay, so this is where, the cult of Veltha. The same ambitious priestesses ventured into the ruins of the citadel to study ancient manuscripts and artifacts, hoping that they could reclaim the ancient divination techniques that had been lost to time. As the cult acquired more power and prestige, they eventually managed to reestablish the cult of Veltha. For many, many years, Phleesian society remained stagnant, fearful of the thought that they would lose the light of Veltha again. Except for they still had lost it. They didn't realize that the cult of Veltha was lying to them. Even as the Phleesians rejected any form of innovation and development, they maintained their value as formidable warriors. To this day, no invader has ever managed to oust them from their homeland. The cult of Veltha's influence rose steadily, and it was eventually put to the test in what became known as the Year of the Red Waters, a time of many cataclysms that originated from the sea. So, maybe Nethins was pissed off that people were still worshipping Veltha and influenced the sea, even though he was kind of still trapped underneath Veltha's blade. Soon, people started viewing these events as signs that heralded the return of Nethins. Once free from banishment, the sea god would unleash his pent-up rage upon the spawn of Elta, possibly spelling doom for all crag dwellers. Makes sense. When the year of the Red Waters reached its peak, a supposedly enlightened priestess announced the discovery of a divine artifact that would bring salvation to all believers of the cult, the Sword of Elta. Except for the Sword of Elta was fake. We have that, and we read its description. The Sword of the War deity was believed to be located on the coast near the ancient citadel, where a terrible storm struck particularly hard. Perhaps it was a sign of Nethian's hatred and fear. The priestesses claimed that the mere possession of the blade, returning it to the hands of the truth-faithful of Elta, would protect the people from the vengeance of the sea god. I was there the day the brave fisherman took his first step onto a tortuous road that would lead him to become the first and greatest commander of the Rift Defenders. How it pains me that his star wasn't fated to shine for long. Betrayed by a fearful and corrupted faith, he was accused of crimes he did not commit. Yet, humanity's trust is a feeble thing. Once broken, it takes eons, if ever, to be restored. He would travel far and wide, leaving Felicia behind, and the sad memories with it. Being so apt in the arts, he would join a company of renowned actors on a mission to recover the tools necessary to write the mightiest of plays, unaware that such an endeavor would cast the most ominous shadow on Enotria and inevitably his homeland. So, I'm pretty sure that Pulcinella was part of this group, actually, because when you first are gonna head to Latumnia by boat, so Pulcinella says something to the effect of that, hey, I should replace the captain. Do you agree? But anyway, realizing the heinous act he had unknowingly partook in, the commander rode back to Felicia, determined to seek aid from the Earthen Lord. Known too as the god of strife, the two engaged in ferocious combat. The weakened god was unable to best him, and recognized his worth. Moved by a steely determination, the divine Velta extended a hand to the former commander. Infused with divine power, he would no longer take human form, but one of a mighty beast forever engaged in strife to protect his homeland, even well after his sanity gives out. Such is the brave, sad tale of Gian Gurgalo. Okay, so Gian Gurgalo headed off with a bunch of actors because he was persecuted by the cult of Velta for things he didn't do, and accidentally helped enact the stagnation, and then tried to get help from Velta to put a stop to it, but I guess his sanity gave out before he was able to accomplish his goal, and you end up putting him down. But then he gives you some info. Well, that's sad. Okay, in ancient times, a cataclysm of epic proportions scarred the lands of Enotria, an event that would forever change the landform of the territory. A huge crater remained, an indelible scar of this catastrophic occurrence, and fragments of the cosmic rock fell all over the land. In the following millennia, nature eventually covered up traces of the cataclysm. When man arrived in Enotria, they were awestruck by the colossal chasm that marked the landscape. Soon enough, the first settlements started to witness to extraordinary events that they could not explain. It would take years for the inhabitants to notice coincidences and patterns that would provide hints in regard to the source of said phenomena. As the people grew more accustomed to the areas most affected by the cataclysm, they stumbled upon strange rocks buried in the ground. The deeper they went, the larger these stones would become and the brighter their eerie glow. In time, many stories and theories began to form around these mysterious stones. Some speculate that they were the crystallized tears of a mythological beast, while some say that they are the manifestation of the power of an entity from beyond this world. At some uncertain point in history, the people living close to the site of the ancient cataclysm started whispering a name in fearful reverence, Leto. No one knows where the name comes from, it just happened, as if something etched it into the people's brains all at once. So something interesting is there is a lot of gratia textures and patterns in the mines. So if all of these white stones are the results or are a manifestation of Leto's power, then that means Leto itself must be the origin of gratia. And that makes sense because Leto is older than everything else, including the other gods. The land of the ancient cataclysm was swampy and plagued by fog and incessant rain. Plants would not grow properly in the soil, making it a rather hostile place for any civilization. The discovery of the mysterious rocks buried in the depths of the earth allowed mankind to create the first settlements and slowly build an economy that revolved around mining. In a twist of fate, this was the very event compensating for the barren land with mineral trading that threatened Enotria, allowing what would become the city of Latumnia to be born and ultimately thrive. Latumnia became an important industrial and commercial powerhouse, earning a reputation that remained constant throughout history. Or so one would believe. Balansoni, renowned doctor and scientist, was always on the lookout for new, practical applications of natural resources in the area. Supported financially by Pantalone, an extremely wealthy merchant, he founded the Guild of Engineers to pursue his goals. The guild was a spectacle to behold, rooted in the depths of the earth as well as grasping at the sky. The first milestone reached by Balansoni and the guild was the invention of black powder, obtained by treating meteorite fragments to create a powerful explosive reagent. The use of explosives allowed mankind to reach unprecedented underground depths, revealing increasingly powerful meteorite fragments. After several years of excavations, miners found something in the depths of the earth that would forever change the lives of Balansoni and Latumnia itself. In the deepest abyss of the chasm, there it was, the core of the ancient meteorite that struck the land eons ago. A living entity of incalculable power. Upon this discovery, Balansoni closed off the chamber and made sure that nobody would know about it. He was hell-bent on establishing contact with that unfathomable being. To support this initiative, Balansoni founded the Court of Astronomers, a scientific institution that studied the stars, hoping to ultimately find a way to communicate with the cosmic entity. One fateful day, Balansoni managed to establish contact with it, and they engaged in a very long conversation. Brilliant doctor uncovered many secrets of the cosmos and creation itself. However, as he delved deeper into cosmic knowledge, he gradually started losing his grasp on reality, and the sanity along with it. Drunk with cosmic knowledge, Balansoni convinced himself that he had transcended humanity. Morals and etiquette became meaningless, and he was now free of restraint. He could pursue science in the most insane and unhinged ways. With limitless knowledge and limitless wealth, Pantalone and Balansoni could have brought unprecedented disasters to Enotria, and yet, in the most ironic twist of fate, the two are stuck in Latumnia, unable to escape due to the curse of stagnation. Thank goodness. Balansoni had all the time in the world to perfect his research to create a proper vessel for his allegedly ascended mind, one that could match it in raw power. But such a feat could not be accomplished with one body. It required the union of two. That wasn't all. The second host would have to show one quality that would match Balansoni's lust for knowledge. Okay, so greed for money? So that must be like the merchant in Mechanate, which he fused together in an attempt to create an ascended mind. Lovely! The city of Elsa, well past the point of being recognized as a glorious boon of prosperous and fertile land, has been affected by the Connovaccio the most. What was once verdant is now pernicious. What was once rooted in the earth now reigns over a twisted sky, trapped in the eternal delusions of a newfound master. Arlecchino's vision was a grand one, to create a perfect world where everyone had a role. To achieve that, he required the world itself to become part of the grandest play ever seen. With everything trapped in a world doomed to stagnation and decay, Arlecchino sealed everyone's fate, including his own. Centuries have passed, and no one has seen Arlecchino since. Albeit supposedly vanished, the author's grip is still tight and ever present over Enotria. Okay, my throat is about to give out.
If I never saw Spaventa's smug face ever again, it would still be too soon.
Okay, so he can talk about Spaventa, but he won't talk about his own.
Are you mocking me?
This insolence will be your last. Maker becomes unmaker, puppet.
I wonder.
One
No,
bad.
I'm just curious what he has to say about the different masks.
Is that... With honest heart, I beg, do not make me question your creation.
Okay.
Balanzone, Magister of the Astrarium, if only you questioned ethics half as much as the limits of science. So preoccupied with whether it can be done, too busy to ask if it should be done.
Okay, Ian.
Moretta, how odd to see, without the sting of steel in one's back. Zalni? Master? Oh, my heart did flutter. A cruel teacher he was. The best of times, the worst of times it was. Please, stow away this relic of my past. 3 faces, and still he couldn't see the truth.
True enough.
Oh, praise be. Finally, no weed or hedge can stand against us. I swear, could you have picked anyone else?
Yeah.
Nobles, the mere sight makes my stomach churn. The disdain with which your eyes would rest upon me, and what vindicating emptiness lies there now. Jangorgalo, beast of pride. How noble your roar, how hopeless your cause.
John Gurglow, yeah. I'm embarrassed by how many times I mispronounced that name.
Ciao, maskless one.
Alright. Flawed vessel of change. The tree of song bore many fruits, and not all of them found their way out of the woods. Unfit to play any role, these pitiable husks serve as a reminder that there is a fundamental difference between living and existing, and that is to have a purpose. Alas, the purpose they found was not the one they yearned for, to wander aimlessly as immortal vagrants, forever trapped in the cradle of change. One day, one of them will finally be chosen. One of them will be able to realize their potential to break free of this predicament. And that's when the poor vessel will discover their final, perhaps true purpose, to stop the one who had the audacity to have a genuine chance of escape. Force of change. Only one thing can put an end to this wretched farce past due. Change, the unbridled force long forsaken in these accursed lands. One day, a worthy vessel will attempt to harness it, and it will respond in turn by taking the shape of a mighty fighter, seeking to test it. Sharp retort. Formidable performers of many talents who spend an entire lifetime honing their craft. But when their time on stage is fated to last an eternity, one can only wonder whether they're truly content or desperately pining for the final act. In this endless facade, the only moment that seems to bring them ephemeral respite is when they slash and maim passers-by. Perhaps the carnage of blades resonates with their sharp tongues. Salutations, gentlemen and roughened rabble. 'Tis a splendid afternoon we share, as flesh and feast become one. I, grand comedian, shall fill your bellies with laughter. Piercing wit. Eclectic entertainers with an endless repertoire of memorable jokes. Forced into a never-ending charade, unable to stop, they keep delivering punchlines even well after their tongues and jaws give out. They have an innate knack for crossbows. Perhaps bolts puncturing the flesh resonate with the penetrating effect of their witty sense of humor. Now, let us talk of the pain that ails all common serfs, an empty purse. As an actor, payment is as stable as the average marriage. Fear not. Our next paycheck should arrive at 5 past eternity. Well, At least we finally solved inflation. Oh, I never really thought about what they were saying there. But oh my gosh. Half-eaten actor. It took me forever to sit down, but I can partake in supper with my fellow actors at last. I must say, the main course is truly delectable. 2 large slabs of meat around the bone. Somehow, the rich and earthy texture feels very familiar. It's because it's your own legs. Dinner seems to have taken a greater toll on me compared to everyone else. I can't walk, like at all. I trudge along miserably, though others seem to have taken little notice of me as they step on my poor back. As my spine creaks and cracks, I feel the weight of that meal more than ever. Why should I be the only one crawling? I think I'll have more of that same dish, and with that, more people to look in the eyes. That's fun. Crushing laughter. Formidable actors renowned for their ability to make people burst into joyous laughter. Few could ever hope to join their ranks, as they're required to be very tall to stand above everyone else on stage. Time and frustration turn them into executioners just as formidable. They're renowned for their ability to crush interlopers, even more so if they're not laughing. Only sheer luck has enabled these acting prodigies to elude the ravenous gluttony of their master. However, one glance at them is enough to label such luck with a more fitting name, misfortune. Townsfolk. Dumizio knew how to do many things, but he wasn't great at doing any of them. Focusing on something was never his forte. But he did love theater, where everyone was truly skilled and focused on their own role. Eventually, Domizio received a mask and his long-awaited role with it, the factotum, who knows how to do many things but doesn't excel at any of them. Oh, well, I guess you're very good at your role then. Blacksmith. Torquato knew how to do only one thing in life, making weapons. A simple man with a simple life. Why yearn for more? And yet, the joyful cheers did just that. They convinced him to pursue a more exciting life. One last weapon before the festival ends. A new chapter awaits. And so, hundreds of last weapons were made, for the festival has yet to conclude. And with it, his yearning. That is horrifying. Lumberjack. I never felt truly part of this city. Too much revelry for my tastes. But you won't find better wood than from Quinto's. The other day I stumbled into the most sinister of forests, slightly west from the city. The wood there is of an unprecedented quality. Feels like I hit the jackpot. I shall say, though, some of the trees there are quite unusual. They come in dark colors, and they even move. And when you chop them down, they make the strangest sound. It's closer to breaking bone rather than bark. Sounds about right. Gardener. Those fools, look at their crops. Of course they're all withered. They never talked with their plants, not once. I never stop talking to my plants. I share my doubts, fears, my joys with them. I grow alongside them, and they with me. I can't sleep. I can't leave my plants alone, not for 1 second. No matter what happens, I have to keep talking to them. We will grow. Okay? Quinta Shepherd. An ancient canine race that was widely known as protectors of livestock and farmers, now adapted by the city guard to sniff out illegal trades and chase fugitives. When the endless curse struck these trustworthy creatures, their sense of smell became irresistibly drawn towards anything that eludes stagnation, a rather unfortunate development. As the provisions ran low, the poor things began to starve, which did nothing but make them even more rabid. One can only wonder if they had anything to do with these legless fellows who wobble about feverishly. Now, the legless fellows who wobble about ate their own legs. But, okay, so the Quinta hounds are like actual dogs, but the ones in Latonia are artificial. Quinta Scuttler. Unusually large coastal creatures. They don't seem to be native to the shores of Quinta. Perhaps they were driven out of their natural habitat and found refuge here. Upon closer inspection, their carapaces often have large and deep holes, as if they had been pierced by some sort of hunting tool. Wherever these creatures came from, it seems they were hunted fiercely. One night, I saw a group of these odd creatures gathering close to some shipwreckage. They were all still and were turned towards a specific direction, perhaps towards their homeland. Felicia Mania has a lot of spears, so that makes sense. Drunken actors. Drink wine and you will sleep well. Sleep well and you will not sin. Avoid sin and you will be saved. Ergo, wine is salvation. The only thing worse than an eternal festival is living through it with a tinge of sadness. Now that's a mind prison one does not want to be in when it comes to eternity. Some manage to keep the melancholy at bay with generous rivers of wine, like a makeshift medicine that grows weaker over time. However, that remedy does not work for everyone. For some, it has the exact opposite effect. Poor sods. Corrupted actors. As the monastery shut itself off in a desperate attempt to evade the looming curse, some crazed actors saw this as an insult. Refusing the arts like this? It could not be. And so, hundreds of attempts later, some of them found their way into the last breathing yet struggling domain of the deity. But the monastery soon proved to be a truly inhospitable ground to non-believers. The invading actors soon found themselves lost, both in body and spirit. They unwillingly forsook the arts they wanted so desperately to uphold. Now they wander through the once sacred grounds under the influence of fatwa, with the most sinister look in their eyes. Mentalone. The clergy of Quinta used to cultivate a splendid garden which was built in reverence of the goddess of life. The centerpieces were the Maya's blooms, beautiful flowers of the purest white, said to represent her blessings to mankind. But the goddess's gaze never graced them. In the pits of despair, they ended it all, only to then be met by the very gaze they desperately sought. But was the resulting gift really worth it? Over time, the Maya's blooms became dyed by the blood of her worshippers, and their glistening whiteness seemed lost forever. Flagellatory? Bless us with thine life-bearing embrace, O verdant goddess, and free us from penitence. Bless us with thine life-taking touch, O golden maiden, and birth us anew. Grant us life, grant us death, grant us the promised cycle, for we fear stagnation above all else. Well, that's unfortunate. Felicia fisherman. Nothing's by the well. Will our catch today be good, Pertel? Nothing's by the river we cast our nets, hoping the catch makes no spine shiver. Nothing's by the sea, bringer of golden blades that rend our flesh, such is your answer to our plea. Coast Hunter. To those who shared net and bounty alike, seeking respite by the wreckage, how I long for my time with you all, my brethren. No one could foresee the absolute horror that would burst from the sand and engulf us in the dead of night. Whether it was an abnormally large paguro or nothing's incarnate, it matters little, for nothing could have stopped that thing, and nothing will. When nets are cast, when the harpoon is thrown, we hope they last. We pray they don't take our lives, the only thing we own. Felicia Milite. Former fishermen who underwent a rigorous but hasty training process, making them great cannon fodder. They wear the traditional suits of armor of their ancestors, or at least what's left of it. The backbone of the Felician army, they deploy their newly acquired skills in an attempt to stall the invading Spaventa forces. Surprisingly, even the instinct they'd honed while fishing for the spawn of nothings comes in handy. As they cast aside their nets and grow more and more accustomed to blades, their ancestral Aenian heritage slowly kicked in, leaving them baffled at the rate with which they were becoming increasingly skilled with each slain meridian. Felician storyteller. Ruins of the Aenian Empire are found almost everywhere across Enotria, a sempiternal testament to what brought forth the Carnavaccio. Songs and stories carried primordial powers across ancient Enea. And yet, all the amazement and entertainment counts for naught in war-torn Urbe. But the storytellers still have their role, and so shall they play those forlorn melodies in remembrance of the glorious past. Blazing Gladiator. Crowds would gather and cheer for actors, poets, and singers, but the Aeneans also reveled in the art of battle, which gave rise to the theater of valor. Partakers in the battle arts would hone their battle prowess and test their utmost limits. Such an ancient tradition served the Phleesians well, enabling them to take up arms against foreign usurpers. When mere will and flesh weren't enough, gladiators would resort to more intrusive methods to best their enemies. Strange concoctions offered by the newfound cult of Velta that, once exhaled, would grant the user divine strength for a time. Cave Bandit. Only the most devoted maidens would be granted the honor to become huntresses of Velta, leaving the ones who were only interested in mindless killing to stalk the shadows in search of prey. Refusing to acknowledge the goat and the lion, these renegade huntresses embrace the snake as the one true aspect of Velta. Cunning is all that's needed to see another day. So did they see John Gurglow and his association with Velta and kind of come up with this whole aspect of Velta thing? As opposed to their faithful sisters, cave bandits believe that the recent invasion is a sign that times have changed, and that Velta now demands they avert their gaze from the depths of the sea to the very land she shaped. Risen ancestor. Though their prayers to the Earthen Lord may fall on deaf ears. Okay, so Earthen Lord, another name for Velta, I think, because John Gurglow sought out the Earthen Lord, fought the Earthen Lord, and then referenced as Velta. Let's see if oh, here we go. From the Earthen Lord, known too as the god of strife, the two engaged in ferocious combat. Moved by his steel-eyed determination, the divine Velta extended a hand to the former commander. Yeah. Okay, so Risen Ancestor. Through their prayers to the Earthen Lord, aka Velta, may fall on deaf ears. Okay, that makes sense, because Nethune's made it so that nobody in Enotria can talk to Velta. Or rather, no one who's eaten the sea life along the coast of Fleecia can talk to Velta. But anyway, which actually, yeah, that makes sense, because, that does kind of make sense, because John Gurglow was cast out. So maybe, for some reason, he was not a partaker of the curse that made it so that everybody else could not talk to Velta, so he was still able to do it? Oh. And he probably talked about Velta to people, so people knew that his beast-like form was a result of Velta helping him out. And I guess that just kind of metamorphosed into this aspect of Velta thing. May fall on deaf ears, they shall defend their land and preserve its memory even after their flesh fails them. The greatest blight brought upon the army of Spaventa is the anguish of those who ultimately failed in defending Urbe. Dead as they may be, their willpower lives on in a tragic twist of fate brought on by the author's curse. These undying husks are the very reason why the invading army eventually gave up on seizing control of the ancient necropolis, especially after they noticed that the husks never left those grounds to chase trespassers, as if they were duty-bound to stand their ground. Sanctum Zealot. Commander Jean Gurglow used to be accompanied by a selected group of trusted lieutenants that were among the most ardent and valorous defenders of Fleecia. Their skill in battle was only outclassed by their faith in their commander. Before the advent of the Canovaccio, these formidable warriors swore upon the oath of stoicism alongside John Gurglow. Little did they know that the same oath would take an unexpected tragic turn due to the looming curse. As the Canavaccio turned their mortal coil into the purest marble, they became the living embodiment of the unbending will to stand beside their beloved leader, no matter what madness they might be driven towards. Now I'm a little bit more confused. Oh, I'm mixing up the Simulacra Velta and the Sanctum Zealot. The Sanctum Zealot, that makes sense, yeah. So the Sanctum Zealots are guarding the Colosseum. They're associated with John Garglo, so they know the truth about Velta and everything, but they've lost their sanity. And they're just in an endless loop of fighting. Okay. Huntress of Velta. The chosen children of Velta, huntresses embody all three aspects of the deity. They constantly measure their worth by hunting Paguros, the scourge of the seas. Huntresses are only allowed to wear armor crafted from the shells of the Paguros they defeat. The third rule states that any protection needs to be earned through conflict. Each huntress firmly believes that they get one step closer to Velta for each spawn of Nethins they vanquish, and so to this day they reenact the fratricidal war between the two brothers. Okay, I'm a little confused. If we go back to the cave bandits, who are related to the huntresses of Velta, specifically it says they avert their gaze from the depths of the sea to the fairyland she shaped, right? So they know who Velta is, whereas everybody else, their perception of Velta is informed by the cult of Velta, right? So, but if they know that, then why is it that the Huntress of Velta refers to Velta and Nethins as the two brothers? I'll have to think about that one, because it doesn't really make sense to me. Priestess of Velta, claiming to be the only ones who are still able to hear the whispers of Velta. Right. The priestesses of Urba are the glue that keeps Felician resistance together. A priestess's power doesn't lie just in words. It's their unshaking faith in Velta that pushes them forward. Their zeal sometimes border on cultism. Many believe that their claims about being close to Velta are largely unfounded. After all, the common folk needed tangible proof of divine presence, which spurred the faith to try unconventional means in a foreign land. Oh. Yeah, okay, so a couple things to think about here is one, so the cult can't talk to Velta. So all of their teachings about Velta are based on distant legends that they're pretty much lost to them. And but also, and we've been talking about that, but something that's more interesting to me here is that they were spurred to try unconventional means in a foreign land. Now, you have a priestess of Velta who is in Latumnia by the mines, and she is talking about the dangers of Gratia and all that. Gratia being basically a manifestation of Leto's power. So they were trying to use Leto's, just the residue of Leto's power, rather, to serve as some kind of proof of their divine role, I guess. Which makes sense, and that explains why they all use Gratia attacks. Because that's where they got their power from in Latumnia. Simulacra Velta. These bronze statues, originally built as idealized versions of Velta and brought to life by the Magi, used to defend places of worship across Falesia. But not even inanimate objects could be spared from the Carnavaccio, as the purpose that magically animated them was pushed to an absolute extreme. Nowadays, simulacra are no longer capable of discerning friend from foe. Anything is a threat to Falesia, and as such, must be eradicated. The Falesians, with their deep understanding of their homeland, still manage to weaponize these constructs against the armies of Spaventa. One could say that through the simulacra, Velta was still keeping an eye out over their children, though not without resentment. Idealized version of Velta, brought to life by the Magi. Okay. Sunken Colossus. Terrifying conglomerates of ancient Aenean architecture originally meant to stave off invading fleets. The rituals to animate them would then be refined for the creation of the simulacra of Velta. Disposed and forgotten, the Carnavaccio instilled a newfound will to survive, and fused with shipwreckage in an attempt to repair themselves. The effects of the Carnavaccio twisted the Colossi's desire for survival. No place is safe from their reach. They can toss pieces of ruin to the skies. Paguro Scuddler. The spawn of Nethans, once slated to be sacrificed for the prosperity of the children of Velta. Though the conflict may be long gone, their hostility towards Falesia remains. Never regarded as a gift of the sea, but merely an opportunity for profit, they were once hunted to the brink of extinction. If burrowing in the sand was once a desperate means of survival, it is now an opportunity to bring the unaware, wretched land dwellers to their demise. One could see it as a cold attempt at spurring the sea god to free himself from the shackles of apathy. Picaro Wreck Dweller. This one only has 2. There's not a third one. Scout reports describe having witnessed these large crustaceans attacking the Falesians with unparalleled ferocity. The upper ranks then commanded their retrieval, and the reason will be disclosed in due time. By combining the resilience of these creatures with Latumnian technology, the Engineering Commission has produced a new, powerful tool to eliminate the resistance. Spaventa Riflemen, devoted followers of the greatest hero that ever graced the kingdom of Meridiana. They are now engaged in an exhausting campaign to conquer what is left of Falesia. They would gladly give their lives to the sole survivor of the tragic Genestra campaign. To this day, nobody knows what had transpired there, and nobody seems to question it. The island of Genestra is isolated, and its story deeply rooted in folklore. Nobody could set foot there without losing their lives, which made Captain Spaventa seem even more prodigious. Spaventa Escador. The auxiliary troops managed to breach the Colosseum quarters without effort, though the Falesian forces were nowhere to be seen, which is highly unusual. They sent a few scouts, but they never returned, right? Probably because they were killed by John Gergolo. Disturbing reports state that the entire auxiliary force was wiped out overnight. The camp was in shambles and claw marks were everywhere. We presume it was a wild beast of untold size. It seems the beast has taken the Colosseum as its den. Even stranger is that it dons the same colors of the Falesian army. Could it be more than just a wild animal? Yes. Yes, indeed. He indeed is more than a wild animal. Spaventa Privateer. Mercenaries from all over Enotria. After the failed conquest of Genestra, the army of Meridiana started hiring these veterans for all sorts of campaigns. These sellswords never served under the same banner for too long, and in an ironic twist of fate, they won't have to do so ever again. Perhaps they've been bedazzled by the majestic stride of their new captain. Their prowess in battle is beyond question, especially when accounting for their knowledge of devices and gunpowder, making them extremely versatile soldiers that can be deployed in many situations. Yeah, they're annoying, alright. Soul Meridian Knights. Former servants of the merchant princess of Meridiana, handpicked by her. They serve as enactors of her will in the name of the Order of Sol Meridio. Certain events eventually led the Order to believe that the princess and her court were plotting to throw Meridiana into disarray. To this day, what happened in the wake of said suspicions isn't clear. Now, one thing is apparent. The princess is nowhere to be seen, and the Order's presence is stronger than ever. The newfound order departed with Spaventa to pursue the glorious conquest of Felicia. Their zeal is ferocious as their fearless leader. Yes, fearless. He is very fearless. He's not a coward or anything. A Felician hound, a subspecies of Quinta shepherd that was imported and bred in Felicia at some point in history. They have developed a much higher level of tolerance to heat compared to their Quinta progenitors, a necessary development to survive the scorching sun that bathes Felician shores. The Felician hound became a precious ally to the fishermen who were hesitant to venture out at sea, fearing the wrath of Nethans. With their powerful bites, they were able to hit the vulnerable joints of the dangerous hermit crabs, limiting their movements and ultimately securing the kill for their owners. Soon, the Meridian invaders realized the high value that could be yielded by the proud canine race, and instead of mercilessly killing them, they would seize them and make them undergo rigorous training to suppress their instincts, and become powerful military tools for scent tracking and surveying the land. Guilds of Latumnia, Astrarium Ascendant. Ascendant was the common name bestowed upon gifted students that roamed the epicenter of knowledge in Latumnia. Each and every one of them was driven by an unquenchable thirst for erudition, never tiring, never raising their eyes from the books. When Balansone took over the academy, Ascendants became little more than willing slaves, doing all kinds of dirty work that could lead them to be noticed by their newfound master. An undeserving fate for what could have been the future pillars of Latumnian society. That's unfortunate. Ascendants used to draw immense maps of the starry vault with compasses that were tailored to the size of such an endeavor. Nowadays, maps are all but forgotten, and the only thing compasses draw are trails of blood. Astrarium Magister. Among the Ascendants, the few who mastered at least one of the 6 fields of knowledge would reach the rank of Magister, one of the highest honors ever bestowed across Latumnia. Magisters would often delve into forbidden research to fuse their consciousness with artificial bodies, unlocking new levels of transcendence. No new Magisters have been declared since the Canavaccio struck, and perhaps it's one of the only good things to come out of all this tragedy. Ingenium Engineer. Working in the guild is life's calling. One could even call it a sacred duty. Truth is, it's a thankless, tireless job that often ends with lost limbs and a damaged psyche. But over time, these downsides came to be seen in a different light. Acquiring a mechanical prosthetic eventually became a rite of passage to become a true master engineer, and when the stagnation spread its tendrils over Latumnia, the guild doors never opened again, yet the work continues. Ingenium Prospector. Master, we found something in the deepest tunnel, but words fail me. It's as if our minds are unable to process what is down there. But one thing I am able to say about it is the minerals down there are unlike anything this world has ever seen. This entity, I have seen it. I peered into its ancestral gaze, and then I knew. The cosmos, the deep beyond, it had seen it all. I need to establish a connection. Day 45,110. Its whispers have finally reached me. We talked for a long, long time. He spoke of nothing and everything at the same time. It is now clear to me that I have to elevate Latumnia to the stars. Ingenium Automaton. Mortality rates in the mines are like the tides. They rise and fall, and when it peaked, it became clear that having workers unaffected by the oscillations of life and death was necessary. These pinnacles of the guild's engineering were powered by an undisclosed source of power stored in their heads. To remain operational, they require a tremendous amount of maintenance, meaning the engineers were now slaves to their own creation. From the outside looking in, it seemed like the automata overtook the mines, as the twisted minds of the engineers now prevented them from putting a halt to the strenuous maintenance of these hulking machines. Without proper maintenance, their power source started exhibiting odd behaviors, almost childlike, one would say. Yeah, so here children disappeared as a result of Balansoni's experiments, and here were powered by an undisclosed source of power stored in their heads. Without proper maintenance, their power source started exhibiting odd behaviors, almost childlike, one would say. That's just great. If we, let's see, I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was, well, we'll get to it. Yeah, okay. Anyway, you get the general idea. Orbis Astra. Shortly after the discovery of the Sidero crystals in the depths of the mines, the Magisters started studying their potential applications with remarkable results. The ore is capable of storing remarkable amounts of energy. When the capacity limit is reached, it releases a shockwave of unparalleled force that can topple over a fully functioning automaton. By mounting the crystal on a mechanical apparatus fashioned out of the anatomy of the Philesian crabs, its powerful properties can now be fully expressed even remotely. Abnormal scalars. One of the little-known facts about hermit crabs is that they are highly susceptible to the environment they thrive in. This observation was not obvious at all, as the spawn of Nethians lived exclusively in Phalesia for the longest time. Over the span of several centuries, some small groups of hermit crabs migrated to other faraway lands for unknown reasons. Well, they settled in probably because they were being hunted. Well, they settled in these new environments. Their extremely high adaptability would be put into motion. Nowadays, it's not unusual to stumble across crabs with highly toxic pincer attacks, or crabs imbued with celestial energy. If there's one thing Nothings and Velta truly had in common, it's that their creations were remarkably adaptable. Meteoric Hound. One of the properties of Sidero crystals is its extreme longevity. A single ore could power a mobile construct for well over 50 years, provided its size were no larger than a Quinta shepherd. Though lacking a sense of smell, these engineered hounds easily surpass the real thing, thanks to their uncanny sensitivity to sound vibrations, enabling them to spot an intruder from much further away. Oh, that makes sense now. So I thought it was maybe a bug or something, but when you are in the entryway, where exactly is it? So, yeah, when you're over here and you approach the Philesian hound that's to the right, the dog starts barking before it could possibly see you, and I always thought that's really odd. I guess it's just a proximity thing for dogs. But no, the reason is because they operate off of sound. Whereas I feel like the ones in Quinta were less likely to just aggro on you if they couldn't see you. Could be wrong about that. Okay. Nowadays, nobody performs regular maintenance on them anymore. In the best case, hounds would simply cease to function when the Sidero crystal empowering them run out of power. In the worst cases, well, it can be clearly seen and felt. Stream the citizens. Former citizens of the hamlet of Serena. Okay, so meteoric hounds are powered by Sidero crystals. Why couldn't they just do the same thing for Ingenium automaton? Like, why is it that they felt okay? So there is something else somewhere in the compendium. Or no, it's not in the compendium. It's in. I know where it's at. It's the mask. Here we go. Automaton mask. You deal more weapon damage through heavy attacks. But okay, an odd sequence of numbers is typically found on their napes. So I took this. Pardon me. I took this binary and converted it into decimal, and then looked it up on the ASCII table, and it says brain. So, yeah. For some reason, the Ingenium automata are powered by human brains, based on a childlike thing. I assume the brains of the children that disappeared, but the meteor accounts are just powered by crystals. So, yeah. Anyway, Serena citizens, former citizens of the hamlet of Serena, they had a very important duty to maintain a steady supply of water to their humble community. When the gates of Latumnia closed, many of them were left to die a horrible death in the swamps or be forever trapped in the city. With their water supplying duty forever ingrained in their minds, they found solace in tirelessly carrying jugs of water from one point to another. However, there was no longer a community of people with thirst that needed to be quenched, nor thanks to be given for such honest work. Soon the jugs of water became more important than their own lives, and there was no greater disgrace than to fail their duty. The once pure souls became darkened with folly, and they started blindly attacking everyone in sight. Petra Glassblower. Other than its wonderful creations, the Glass District was known far and wide for its gentle giants and their unmatched glass-making skills. The creations of these Goliaths were highly sought after by the whole world. Any collector worth their salt had to have a piece of Latumnian glasswork among their pieces. How could such imposing hands conjure such transparent works of art? When the city closed off its gates from the orders of the upper echelons of the Astrarium, aka Balanzoni, the guild followed suit and cut all ties with the artisans, effectively terminating the supply of molten glass. Now bereft of any purpose, the glass blowers were overtaken by despair, and they could no longer shake off the rage that would follow. Yeah, I mean, especially if they're in that situation, forced on a loop for centuries. Serena Wanderer. Former citizens of the hamlet of Serena. Their simple lives came to a halt when the gates of Latumnia closed, leaving them to either die a horrible death in the swamps or be forever trapped in the city. The surviving Serenians eventually found refuge in the Glass District, where they started fashioning staves made of reinforced glass to fend for themselves. In a tragic irony, the glass that once delighted the beholder has now been repurposed as a tool to cull lives. Gondolier. Ferrying citizens of Latumnia across the canals was considered a most honorable job, one that deserved to be passed down to one's children, so that their life would also be a proud one. After the city closed its gates, Pantalone instructed the gondoliers to charge exorbitant sums of money in exchange for their services, a move that started the spelling of their demise. With nobody left to ferry, the gondoliers became tax collectors, where rage aided in doing a better job. Okay. Some nights, mad with grief, they would ride the gondolas again, hoping that someone, someday, would pay for their service. All gondoliers in Latumnia used to abide by an extremely rigid internal code of honor. The cardinal rule was to never allow your oar to break, for that means the end of your life on the canals. The advent of the Canovaccio caused many gondoliers to break their cardinal rule. Mad with grief and regret, most of them simply put an end to their lives. Others were taken over by a boundless rage. Yeah, so all of that money that Pantalone extorted out of people using the gondoliers just all ends up in that room. For what purpose? No purpose. Latumnian Highborn. Latumnian aristocracy is a social class of ruthless competition. Constant race to see who would be able to secure the best piece of art or the latest gizmo. The biggest shame a noble could meet is an empty, uninteresting mansion. When Pentaloni and Palazzone took control of the city, the nobles were easily swayed and encouraged to indulge in the most lavish lifestyle possible, which allowed the duo to secure a stable flow of income. To this day, they keep spending their seemingly never-ending wealth. In an ironic twist of fate, they would keep purchasing automata to guard their treasures, unwittingly filling the master merchant's pockets. Pentalino, meaning little soldier in the Latumnian dialect, these creatures were used as expendable canaries to warn the miners of dangers in the depths, but exploiting these poor condemned souls didn't do much to keep the mortality rate of miners in check. When automatons started to take over, they were ultimately disposed of and left to wander aimlessly in the less inhabited areas of the city. Unbeknownst to all, years spent in the depths of the mines had changed the Fentalinos, perhaps from them coming into contact with some mysterious minerals. While most of them show no obvious changes, in the direst of cases, they had undergone slight mutations and turned extremely aggressive. Forgotten fauna. When the most zealous and fervent believers of the cult of Leto discovered the properties of the Sidero ore, they devised a twisted ritual to manufacture entities that would serve as guardians of the swamps and consequently the gates of Latumnia. It was those same believers who offered themselves up for the ritual. They were tied to a dead tree that would then be revitalized with their blood. This would make the tree gain new life and merge itself with the sacrifice, thus sealing the so-called Pact of Rebirth. The key component to the Pact of Rebirth was a Sidero ore embedded in the chest of the sacrifice, which would serve as the catalyst for the tree to continuously sap the person's life force, resulting in the grotesque abominations that feverishly roam the city. For Miglio the Red Prior, as the unending play raged on, the old prior's faith ebbed as he continued praying for divine guidance. Long he gazed into the void, hoping to be met by her touch, all in vain. He plunged her dagger deep into his heart. In a cruel twist of fate, his role in the play was dictated, and he was forever stuck in between life and death. Curtis, Prince of Laughter, the greatest among actors, his rising fame caused Zani to resent his talent. He now stands guard at the church, far away from the cheers, yet closer to an ancient secret. A breach defender. Let the goat be my resolve, let the lion steal my will, and let the snake tighten my grip. I am the last bastion of Thalesia's memory, sworn to uphold the oath of stoicism. Yeah, okay, so those are the aspects of Velta that people think they have by virtue of Velta having transformed Gian Gargalo, I guess, to the best of my understanding. High Priestess of Velta, our purveyors from the city of the Starry Vault have vouched for the wondrous powers of the stones dug from its depths. With this, we'll be able to silence any doubt that the faith still holds contact with Velta. Don't need to know, we will carry this burden for Felesia. Oh yeah, okay, so here the thing that I was like, oh, I'm going to intuit this, it literally just says it right here. That they went to Latumnia, they got the Gratias stones, the Sidero crystals, yeah, and used that to basically fake their way to being the mouthpiece of the divine that they can't actually talk to. Grand Paguro, a legendary beast feared far and wide across Felesia, its carapace boasts the countless failed attempts at bringing it down, displayed as if they were spoils of war. Sol Meridio Gatekeeper, the Grand Master of the Sol Meridio Order, which is stationed at the entrance to the city. Bound by his honor to annihilate the Felesians, the Conovaccio compels him to keep slaughtering, binding him to a duty that is impossible to fulfill. Feared and even abandoned by his own subordinates, he stands atop a mountain of corpses, unable to stop, unable to think. Maretta. Latumnian aristocracy was not all banquets and concerts. It was also one of merit, power, and contracts. Diplomacy was a fine and delicate rope that everyone was meant to walk on. Every detail had to be perfect, every word perfectly measured. However, when words failed, that's when the dark side of highborn life emerged, the Morettas. Come sunset, these personal attendants would turn into formidable assassins, as silent as the water flowing in the city canals. What made the Morettas so feared across the entire continent was their inhuman determination. Once their eyes were set on their target, they would never tire nor give up the chase. The hunt became everything. So I'm a little bit confused because here, Maretta is used as like a title for an assassin, like an especially deadly assassin. But Laudamia talks about Maretta as a singular person, and so does Pulcinella after we defeat her for the third time. So maybe she was like the original, and she called herself Maretta, and other people kind of followed suit, and what was originally her taking vengeance for the nobility's slights against her and Laudamia kind of metamorphosed into a category of assassin. So maybe she took on like other people as apprentices and kind of turned her name into a title. I'm not sure. It's not very clear. But regardless, Maretta. Pentalone, one of the rulers of Latumnia, trapped forever in bickering and fighting over who should ultimately be in charge of the city. A flamboyant merchant, whose eccentricity is only surpassed by his unbridled greed, who will stop at nothing to amass the largest amount of wealth Enotria has ever seen, for no reason. Bellinzoni, one of the rulers of Latumnia, trapped forever in bickering and fighting over who should ultimately be in charge of the city. An extremely erudite doctor and man of science, Bellinzoni pursued knowledge to reach greater heights until he crossed a threshold that no human should ever cross. Yeah, I would say so. The Melted Ruler. This unsightly amalgam is the result of centuries of infighting between the lords of Latumnia. A grotesque mass, forever at war with itself, has become one with the very lair that holds their treasure. Unable and unwilling to leave the city, Pentalone and Bellinzoni are now further than ever from their humanity, now driven solely by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and riches. Arlecchino. As the one who wrote the Carnavaccio, Arlecchino has the most complex relation to it. It is his masterpiece and his grave. While he has not been consumed in a grotesque way as the other authors had, his mind has been warped and distorted to the point where the very world around him is losing its sanity too. As the Carnavaccio grew stronger, so did Arlecchino, and his grip on the world started becoming more and more suffocating. The other masks started to fear him, for he was the prime author, the first one to pen the play. He alone had the power to alter the story to fit his needs. Pulcinella, Arlecchino's best friend and the last of the authors. Okay, so not literally brother. Best friend and the last of the authors to still have his sense of self and a modicum of a hold on sanity. He was the one who first discovered the power of the story, and the one who pushed Arlecchino to do the deed. Master of improvisation and street theater, he was the only one who asked to be written without a scripted role when the Carnavaccio was written, as he was at his best in spontaneity, and this proved eventually to be his saving grace. Zani, the greatest actor to have ever blessed the lands of Enotria, he became widely known for his awe-inspiring performances that truly blurred the line between fiction and reality. His fame led him to eventually establish the renowned school of theater in the town of Quinta, his cherished birthplace. A pity that a genuine wish to pass on his legacy became something else entirely. John Gurgalo. Commander John Gurgalo, last and greatest commander of the Aenean Empire, went through all kinds of misfortune following his rise to power. Driven from his land after unknowingly taking part in what would have caused the land of Enotria to fall under the curse of stagnation, he returned to Falesia with an unquenchable thirst for vengeance. Capitan Spaventa. When the Carnavaccio was written, the captain's sole wish was to be remembered as a great hero by the people of Meridiana. This caused him to be perpetually stuck in heroic delusions, fueled by a never-ending struggle with the people of Falesia. One could suspect that, beneath all that bravado and magnificence, lay something, or someone, truly pitiful. Maya, the embodiment of life and death, she rose to prominence as the common folk of also yearned for divinity, weary of the fact that their life depended entirely on the seasonal harvest. As their cult grew, many monasteries were built in her name. However, with the advent of the Carnavaccio, only a fraction of her worshippers were left. This made her feel, perhaps for the very first time, fear for the death that she herself embodied, leading her to commit an unspeakable sin. Balta, the ancient god of earth of Falesia Magna, is one of the oldest and most powerful gods of Enotria. After engaging in mortal strife with her brother Nethins, Balta chose to self-isolate to recover lost strength. The Falesians misinterpreted this act, believing that the god had abandoned them, while, more specifically, Nethins made it so that nobody on Falesia Magna could speak to Balta, leading them to lose faith and consequently further weaken the very god they once believed in. I'm almost finished with the lore episode, but I want to go over the inventory items. I don't have enough of a voice left to read through everything with my voice, but I will comment on anything that stands out. Yeah, so given that everything in the game is based around the story that was written, a song being the thing that resets you, I think is very nice. Okay, yeah, this is interesting because as Balansone was doing all of these experiments, it would make sense that the glass blowers who are in proximity to the academy would want to protect themselves against any kind of encroachment. Yeah, this is kind of out of left field a bit, but not exactly. It just kind of hints at some of the darker side. You know, given that for a long time the people had no way to talk to Velta, it kind of makes sense that they'd go to desperate measures. So this is kind of funny because we've thrown Milano vials before, but the implication that we would have had to, well, the entire place is on a loop, so I guess it wouldn't have actually had an effect, but I really like the look of that one. Just the vibe. Extracted from the depths of Latunia, of course. A piece of an ancient instrument. Fatuo. Yeah, so Fatuo is associated with the goddess Maya of life and death. The people seem to really just go to extreme lengths when it comes to Maya. Like, she's a little bit scared of her own people, I think. Gift from Elsa to the world. Elsa was the people of Maya. Yeah. I wouldn't test its effectiveness by nonchalantly walking under a ladder. You know, I never really used that. I never really saw a significant benefit to increasing luck. I mean, how long does it last? I don't know. It'd have to last a long time to be worth it. Specifically to be tossed by drunkards during the festivities. Yeah, I hope you did something about the glass then. Yeah, I love minestrone. Okay, myolikas. I don't know what that means, and so I should look it up. A type of Italian tin-glazed earthenware famous during the Renaissance that features a white opaque glaze painted with colors. Grand Duke of Elsa. Oh, that could go well beyond the myolikas. I read that as being like go well with myolikas. It's been like a month since I recorded the last bit of lore. I just finished editing. That was a project. Various kinds of memory. Piece of a broken mandolin, supposedly dear to Pulcinella. Okay, so yeah, Pulcinella uses... Well, no, he still uses a mandolin. I was gonna say he uses a mask-line mandolin, but let's just sort alphabetical. Oh, right. Genestra was the place that Spaventa supposedly conquered that got him his fame that can never be again. I mean, it could. So that court astronomers once drew celestial maps as grand as the starry vault with a natural accuracy. Well, fortunately, the Bargnef never ate us if we got it wrong. Oh my gosh, so much. Anyway, there's no use carrying a sword and gun when you can have both in a single hand. Except for that you can't actually use this weapon that way. I don't think you can do that with the black powder banner either. Yeah, no. I really do wish that they had like special moves that you could do. Or like maybe like a jumping attack would do it or something, actually. But yeah, it's really too bad. That'd be kind of cool if it did like an AoE or something, kind of like Spaventa, but... made this for the trophy. I only got one of these, or maybe I sold the rest of them, I don't remember. Yeah, this idea that all of these people who are presumably just kind of held in suspension by the stagnation, by the curse, that they are like forever bound as the sword. It's just horrifying if you think about it. I do also wish you could do more with the colossal hot pepper. Like some AoE attacks or something. Such an unpleasant man that after his death his relatives asked for an encore. That's horrible. Dagger sacred to the priestess is Avelta, whose inventory arts guided the Empire to greatness, except for they didn't actually have such power. Ideal for scrutinizing the bowels of its sacrifice as well as those of the enemies of the god of the cliffs. Predictions always came true, especially when pushed through with cold bronze, yeah. They found a way to make their prophecies come true. The dowry of a maiden who is tragically cursed, bound by fate to everlasting loneliness. Yeah, this was Balansoni. No, Pantalone. I think this was Pantalone's weapon. Yeah, Pantalone's weapon. Balansoni had the staff. It's a beautiful sword. Yeah, how did that go for you? Lito. Wielded by an overly stubborn mercenary who never... Intoxicated by... Okay. It is told that the hilt was carved from the ancient junipers from the lost lands of Genestra, where folklore reigns uncontested. So, Genestra... I think that might be where, John Gurglo, Pulcinella, and the rest of them went in order to create the Carnavaccio, even if you are free of debt, because they've stopped only going after people who owe money. Knight's Monolith. A few moments before the apex of the eclipse, the blade was trapped by dying light. He has seen it, he has heard it, the voice from beyond the stars. Meaning Balansoni. He was trying to communicate with Leto. Fair. Sure shall bear witness to the conflict that heralded the landing of the sun-worshipping invaders. Preventing his lot. Primordial power of creation being the song. Once land and sea reigned in harmony before the strife, before the agony. Before Spaventa attacked. An instrument of torture and self-flagellation. Yeah, we never did meet this legendary creature. Oh wait, no, this is, or is this the same as the, there was a bird that was the old lord of the region of Quinta. I don't know if this is the same. Scepter of the Void. Yeah, this is, Balansoni's staff. Sorry, the songs tell of a hidden quarry in which the secret of peerless power is preserved, aka the mines of Latumnia, I assume. I wish it was that straightforward. Actually, no, I don't. That would make it too easy. for your final act. Prolonged proximity to the power of the story had turned it into the most lethal weapon these lands had ever seen. I mean... Yeah, nah. I have to say I disagree. I disagree immensely. I do not think that is the strongest weapon the lands have ever seen. Even though, yes, I'm very out of practice. Anyway, let's keep going. I have much better weapons than that. Frankly. Legendary Dragon. Still trapped and forever wounded in its desecrated sanctuary. I would have liked to have fought Thyris at some point, but such is not to be. A single cut was all that was needed to seal the target's fate. Yeah, so about that. I have a couple words here to look up. Okay. Weapons and honor. We go to win. Glory to him. Spaventa triumphs. Okay. From Meridiana, let's see, the sea. Okay, yeah. So from Meridiana, we have crossed the sea in fury. And then, let's see, what is tempered in adversity. Every soldier is like lightning, something like that. Not. Let's see. Note is night. Ombre is shadows. From the word Latin word umbra. So, among the shadows of night, invoke. I guess, yeah, invoke the ancient Kosei. What is Kosei? Kosei is things. So yeah. Yeah, so among the shadows of night, invoke the ancient things. A prelude to the unrelenting stream that, yeah. There's not a trace of hesitation in this stride. Only infinity of states. Though you may never pick it up or touch it, make no mistake, you can still break it. It's the promise hidden in our oath. I cannot touch it because it's a mask line. Not sure how you break it then. Brigand's Assault. Slither and bite until the snake can move no more. You'd have to drink 3 lifetimes worth in order to do this. Like Conquest is like 1,000 march to, let's see, barbarians to fight the barbarians. trumpet, that's trumpets. Oh yeah, the trumpets will sound without ceasing. The battle is here. Living the best simple life, one swing at a time. You crave the willpower to put an end to it, which you never found. Until we forced into. As I mean, the feast is still going, but not for him. As unrelenting as death itself. Yeah. That's fair. Happiness. That is. Happiness does not exist. Happiness does not exist in any way. Nobody is ever truly happy. Lovely. Yeah, that would be the, Forgotten Fauna. Yeah. Forever cursed to experience a dreadful cycle of failure and treachery that fuels the strength behind his proud bite. This is like the most OP thing ever. You know what they could have? So they have a lot of these mask lines that are basically just the special powers that you would associate with different weapons. What they could have done is, so when you press and hold the left trigger, the face buttons do the mask lines. They could have dedicated one of the face buttons to be like the special move of your equipped weapon. And it could have charged the same way. It would have been kind of cool if one of them was kind of fixed to whatever weapon you currently have. Instead of like, oh, summon this weapon. Let's see. Hands, feet, and stomach. So Don save. Yeah. So yeah, dance with hands, feet, and stomach. And finally shed. Yeah, and finally shed blood. Something like that. Yeah, that's up there. Yeah, so this is the whole yes. Yeah, these numbers were clearly 8-bit numbers, which I mean, obviously they have to be ASCII, right? So if you translate that over, this becomes brain, which is that's a big part of the clue for just the awful things that Belansoni did. It shan't be a matter of if, except for the fact that we've defeated Murata many, many times. Anguish and pain, echoes of war. He's the strongest, greatest, such unusual trees. The sunken fruit is for taking. Yeah, so this is definitely the kind of attitude that earned Nothing's wrath. The Karen mask. Yeah, there were some things in here that stood out. I remember, like the aspect of Pulcinella makes sense with the whole masculine charging thing. Yeah, well, they all pretty much just kind of match the personality of the mask of the role that they're associated with, or the god or goddess that they're associated with, respectively. Yeah, so increasing the status power makes sense because John Gargalo uses a lot of status. But then, like, Balansone, elemental power, status power, and Pantalone, Memoria gained in luck. It's interesting, I think. So all of this stuff is related to the quests that we've done. So I don't know that we need to read through all the quest stuff again. Anyway, the last thing I want to do is go through each of the trophies, since we didn't actually show the trophy messages because...
Force of change. Build a force of change. Okay. Where to go? Video of actors. Oh. What? Parts of mask crafted. Awful.
So yeah, a lot of these trophies I didn't see on screen, but yeah, this matches up the trophies. So yeah, I don't know. This is basically, you know, if somebody cares about this sort of thing.
Vanquished. zealot. Deeply focused. Whew.
Well,
Never be free. Never.
Woo. Well, okay. Stargazing.
My services are yours, as is my trust. Question. Fear the answer!
The video matches up, so it doesn't really matter.
Will kindle thy flame. For that, you have my eternal gratitude.
strength of many. True strength. A lesson for us both.
Again! Not like this! What cruel machinations led...
Yeah, I was very confused by that. It makes no sense. So after we got that one, I went through and made sure to get every single weapon. I found out that Swords Cut is a very bugged trophy, but usually people complain that it doesn't give the trophy at all. In my case, it gave it way too soon.
Why? What cruel...
So yeah, I just thought I'd show all of those so that you can see the trophy pop-ups that I had turned off for most of the game. Yeah, I'm thinking I might do that more in the future, just kind of show the trophy pop-ups after the fact, because the trophies can be spoilery sometimes. Rarely, but sometimes, and I'm always a little bit anxious about that. So I might in the future do post-game trophy montages like that as kind of a final episode. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's the end of Enotria. So we'll move on to our next Souls-like. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you then.